Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a wise and kind man named Abraham. Abraham was very old and he had seen many wonderful things in his life. He had a wife named Sarah who had given him a son named Isaac. Sarah was a very special woman, but after many happy years, she passed away. Abraham was very sad, but he knew he had to continue living a good life and trust in God. One day, as Abraham was sitting under the shade of a big tree, he thought about how lonely he felt. He prayed to God, asking for guidance and comfort. He knew that God had always been with him and would help him find happiness again. As the days went by, Abraham met a lovely woman named Keturah. Keturah was kind and gentle, with a heart full of love and warmth. She loved to help others and always had a smile on her face. Abraham and Keturah became friends, and soon Abraham realized that Keturah was a blessing from God. He felt joy and peace in his heart whenever she was around. Abraham and Keturah decided to get married, and it was a happy day for everyone. They celebrated with their family and friends, thanking God for bringing them together. Keturah loved Abraham very much, and she cared for him with all her heart. They lived in a beautiful tent in the countryside, surrounded by green fields and tall trees. Abraham and Keturah were blessed with 6 children. Their names were Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Each child was special and brought joy to their parents. Abraham and Keturah taught their children to love God, to be kind to others, and to always do what is right. As the children grew up, they learned many things from their parents. Zimran loved to take care of the animals, and he had a special bond with the sheep and goats. Yokshan was very clever and enjoyed solving puzzles and riddles. Medan had a strong and brave heart. He loved to protect his family and friends. Midian was very creative and liked to draw and make beautiful things with his hands. Ishbak was gentle and caring, always helping those in need. Shua was full of energy and loved to run and play with his brothers. Abraham and Keturah's family lived happily, and their home was filled with laughter and love. They often gathered around the fire at night, sharing stories and singing songs. Abraham would tell his children about the adventures he had experienced and how God had always guided him. Keturah would share stories of her own, teaching her children about kindness, patience, and faith. One night, as the family sat around the fire, Abraham told them a story about a special promise God had made to him long ago. He explained how God had promised that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the shore. Abraham's children looked up at the night sky, amazed by the countless stars twinkling above them. They felt proud and grateful to be part of such a special family. Keturah also told her children about the importance of trusting in God. She reminded them that no matter what challenges they faced, they should always have faith that God would guide and protect them. She told them that God had a plan for each of them, and they should always follow his path with courage and love. As the years passed, Abraham and Keturah continued to teach their children valuable lessons about life and faith. They showed them how to be good and kind, how to work hard, and how to always put their trust in God. Their children grew up to be strong, wise, and loving individuals, just like their parents. And so, Keturah's story continued with her grandchildren listening eagerly by the fire. As the nights grew longer and the stars sparkled brightly above, Keturah shared more tales of her family's adventures and the miracles God had performed in their lives. One night, Keturah's grandson, little Jacob, asked her, "Grandmother, can you tell us more about the times when God helped our family?" Keturah smiled warmly and nodded. "Of course, my dear Jacob. Let me tell you a story about how God saved us during a time of great trouble. Many years ago, when Keturah's children were still young, a terrible drought struck the land. The fields dried up, the rivers stopped flowing, and there was very little food and water. People and animals were thirsty and hungry, and everyone was worried. Keturah gathered her children and told them, "We must trust in God. He will provide for us, just as he always has." Every day they prayed together, asking God to send rain and to help them find food. They worked hard to conserve what little they had, sharing with their neighbors who were also in need. Despite the hardship, Keturah and her children remained hopeful and kind. One evening, as the sun was setting, a stranger appeared at their tent. He was tired and weary, and he asked for some water and food. Keturah, though her family had little to spare, welcomed the stranger and offered him what they had. The stranger was grateful and thanked them. He said, "You have shown great kindness to me. I will pray for you, and I believe God will reward your generosity." That night, as they slept, a gentle rain began to fall. It was the first rain in many months. The rain continued for several days, soaking the parched earth and filling the rivers and wells. The fields turned green again, and there was plenty of food and water for everyone. Keturah and her family thanked God for answering their prayers. They knew that their kindness to the stranger had brought blessings upon them. From that day on, they always remembered the importance of helping others, even when times were tough. Keturah looked at her grandchildren, their eyes wide with wonder. "You see, my dear ones," she said softly, "God is always watching over us. When we show love and kindness, He blesses us in ways we cannot imagine." Little Jacob smiled and hugged his grandmother. "Thank you for the story, grandmother. I will always remember to be kind and trust in God." As the years went by, Keturah's grandchildren grew up with the stories of their family's faith and love. They learned to be brave like Medan, clever like Yokshan, and kind like Ishbak. They carried the teachings of Abraham and Keturah in their hearts and passed them on to their own children. One day, Keturah's granddaughter, Miriam, came to her with a worried look. "Grandmother, I am scared," she said. "Our village is facing a big challenge. There are many people who are sick and we don't know what to do." Keturah took Miriam's hand and said gently, "My dear, we must pray and ask God for help. Just as He has always been with us, He will guide us through this difficult time." Together, they gathered the family and prayed for the sick people in their village. They asked God to give them strength and wisdom to help those in need. Keturah encouraged everyone to be brave and to support one another. Miriam, inspired by her grandmother's faith, decided to help the sick people. She gathered herbs and plants that had healing properties and began to make medicine. She visited the sick and cared for them, just as Keturah had taught her. With God's blessing, many people began to recover. Miriam's kindness and hard work made a big difference, and soon the village was healthy again. The people were grateful, and they thanked God for sending them someone as caring and brave as Miriam. Keturah was proud of her granddaughter. She knew that the teachings of Abraham and the love of God had given Miriam the strength to help others. She hugged Miriam and said, "You have done a wonderful thing, my dear. Always remember that with faith and love, you can overcome any challenge." As time passed, Keturah's family continued to grow and spread God's love wherever they went. They faced many challenges, but they always remembered the lessons of kindness, faith, and trust in God. And so the story of Keturah, Abraham's second wife, lived on through the generations. It was a story of love, faith, and the amazing things that happen when we trust in God's plan. The family continued to share these stories, reminding each new generation to be kind, to help others, and to always have faith. The legacy of Abraham and Keturah shone brightly, a beacon of hope and love for all who heard it. And the stars in the sky, countless and beautiful, were a constant reminder of God's promise and the blessings of a faithful heart. And that, dear children, is the continuing story of Keturah and her family. It is a story that teaches us to be kind, to trust in God, and to always help those in need. Remember these lessons and carry them in your hearts, just as Keturah's family did.